Hey there. Thank you for being here with us at Surviving Divorce at 3 a.m. We just finished talking to Lauren Lindsay, an attorney who shared with us about collaborative divorces and about mediation in case you're already in the middle of a divorce and things are getting hairy and you want to make it through with your sanity. So, right now, I have Kristin Afelumo. Kristin's going to share with us what we need to know about keeping our finances in order as we step into our new life. Here she comes. Kristin,
Hi,
oh, thank you so much for being with us today.
of course.
Kristin, it's funny. I will admit to you, I filed bankruptcy about a year after my divorce because I was working part time when I was married. I was going to school full time. And when my husband left, we had just bought a new car. And of course, it went with him because he had to travel across the country. I kept another car that had some issues. And I didn't make good financial decisions. I let my emotions get the best of my credit card.
Mhm.
I just honestly didn't make decisions in line with the normal common sense I would have had. So you are here because I want other people not to go through that.
I'll do my best.
Oh, I appreciate it.
Sure.
Tell me what I would need to know if I were starting out now, where I was back then, suddenly a one income person who had to find a new place to live and make different decisions. Can you help me give me a little guidance?
Sure. I would say, so I engage with people at all different parts of the divorce process. So sometimes they're thinking about it, sometimes they've started the process, at other times they've just finished the process and they're talking about what you're talking about, which is I'm newly divorced and I just don't know where to start. There's two areas in all of financial planning I always say to start with. One is really getting a hold of your goals, so, setting a vision or a direction for where you want to go is extremely important because if you don't know where you want to go, you might end up at the mall. And then you'll look back and think that wasn't the best use of my resources. So just having a good understanding of where you want to go, and then secondly, a good hold on what your cash flow looks like. And that for most people sounds like creating a budget. Just having, and it doesn't matter the income level, having a good understanding of where your money goes and how much of it is coming in is extremely important, especially if there's a job change or a move associated with the divorce, or if you're going from the non-working spouse to now back to work,
Mhm.
having an idea of what your expenses are will inform how much money you need to make, how many hours you need to work. So those two things are just extremely important starting points after the divorce.
And budgets can sound the word budget, right? It just sounds like suddenly someone's going to look over your shoulder and tell you everything you want is bad. And that's not necessarily the case. A budget can give you freedom
Hmm.
because we tend to, if we don't know what our margins are, we tend to spend on little stupid things, right? Little, $6 coffee here and there, when what we really would like is a new outfit for the Christmas party. Something that we really shine in. And we could have the new outfit for the Christmas party, but if in our mind we don't know what our budget is, we
Hmm.
don't know that we actually could save and get that money, we blow it in, at the Dollar Tree or different places. And so a budget is freeing. It puts us in power,
It's also
right?
stewardship. It's a cash, and I like to say cash flow planning because in my mind, and sometimes in the minds of others, it's more of a positive like direction that you're sending your money as opposed to budgeting, which is really closely associated with the diet word in our mind, which is and like this is mine. and I have to like cheat or treat myself and all these things. It's really just about setting some intention about where your money could go so that you've given yourself the freedom to take the vacation or buy the pretty dress for the event you want to go to, or even if it is coffee, because this is my office coffee, but I am a coffee lover. So once a week I
Mm.
get coffee, but that's a part of my planned expenses for the month, as opposed to going and doing it because I just feel like I need it and then feeling guilty about it after.
Right? Guilt takes the taste away, doesn't it? But so budgeting, and it should include a little bit of margin of error, right? Because the divorce itself may cause expenses you didn't know to plan. Now, if you have a financial planner like Kristin, then that person has experience with other people's lives and can say, hey, by the way, this might happen, or you need to save room for this upcoming thing that you're probably going to have to pay for. That person can kind of help you see what you've never personally experienced before and
Right.
plan for it. So, Kristen, besides a budget, is there any other advice that you might give?
So much advice. One of the
Ooh,
things that I have people do when they are considering working with me is, of course, fill out a worksheet to work on their goals. But secondly, I'd say this is an excellent opportunity for you to get organized. And even if you're just considering divorce, um, it's not a decision I don't think any of us take lightly, and it's an extremely difficult and emotional one. But I find that in a lot of cases, especially if I'm working with the non CFO spouse or the one that was not dealing with the money and making the decisions, that spouse is very unaware of what's going on with money in the household, not just the day to day budget, but things like life insurance, investment accounts, pensions, all of that stuff. So I always tell people to just start collecting information about your financial life. There's a checklist on my website. Any of you are welcome to go ahead and download it at herplanning.com/divorce. But there's all kinds of stuff that's relevant to the divorce process, and
yeah.
getting your arms wrapped around that is really important. Even if yourself and your spouse choose to stay married, then you've just become more informed, which I think is an excellent position to be in. So getting organized and just understanding what all exists as a part of your family's financial life is really important.
In my current marriage, becoming more informed for both of us really did a beautiful work in our personal dynamic because, when we both were partners in finance, we became partners where we're both saving, we're both understanding where the money goes. It just made a huge difference. So yeah, even if you're not getting divorced, I definitely recommend partnering up, setting goals together. And
Hmm.
if you're on your own and you're feeling a little bit powerless because your original plans, your original partner, your original goals, they aren't there anymore. Don't forget, this is your life.
Hmm.
Some of the things that you planned with the partner who's no longer there can still be in your personal plan.
Hmm.
Yeah, you might have a step back, you might take a little longer, but don't don't let things go just because that person isn't there anymore. You can still find enjoyment and power in that you and God, who is your provider,
Hmm.
made it happen.
That's a really good
So
point.
that's huge. I know someone who, when she first split with her person, she really had a hard time because she thought, well, nothing's enjoyable anymore. There's nothing that I want to do. But after a couple of months, she planned a vacation with her son, and they had a wonderful time
Hmm.
because they got to plan it. They got to save for it. They got to look forward to it, and they got to enjoy it. And it was, nobody else but her and God and her kid that had worked on that. And that, boy, what a freeing thing. And so, it doesn't have to be a vacation, right? It could
Mhm.
just be decorating your new apartment, right? But
The entrepreneurial goals, I think the hardest part
yes,
about, and I've seen that happen, the hardest part about a really bad breakup or divorce sometimes is the death of a dream. It's the death of, like you said, the future life that you plan with that person. And, what God has for you specifically, He'll have for you, regardless of
yes,
what your family structure looks like. And so it's just like continuing to lean on God, and also, um, and to know that the vision is still the vision, but sometimes the players shift around. And so,
yes.
just keeping that in mind as you're doing your planning, I think would be helpful.
And we have to know that God is our provider. Now, God expects us to use the resources He gives us with wisdom, and He asks for us to share the resources He gives us with Him. That's where our blessing is found. When money comes in or blessings come into me, I'm going to share those with God. I'm going to put a little bit into His ministry, into the the ministries that He's given that feed me, actually, that feed my spirit. And I know that even though that means I'll have less in my bucket, I
Mhm.
actually have a lot more potential in my bucket, because um, God can make my money stretch even further when
Mhm.
I've partnered with Him. So God is our provider. There is no other person that will ever give us what God can give us. And that means finances, that means emotional support, love, power, future. So, what else, Kristin? Is there anything else that you might say to someone who is trying to figure all this out? I can think of tons of things that someone might learn based on their own personal situation when they go through an analysis with you. But
Mhm.
just in general, anything to be careful about?
Um, there's, I think that one of the most common pitfalls I see is like an emotional attachment to a thing. So this kind of goes back
Mhm.
to goals, right? Like if you sit down before it gets wildly emotional and you say, this is what would be a good outcome of this process, that can be something that your attorney, if it's Lauren, or someone else that's collaboratively trained, or like someone like myself with a mediation background, we have all that training to kind of remind you of what your goals were and say, those blue suede shoes that you love, if he gets them, like, is this really going to derail your entire plan? And can you still get to your objective, which is being able to dance together at your children's wedding, 10 years from now? Um, I think it's understanding what the goal is, and also kind of like holding, um, those things loosely, which I think
Mm.
is a God thing too. It's not like this is mine, it's the only one I'm ever going to have. Like knowing that God will provide new stuff. The house, for example, that might, yes, your kids grew up in it, but if you don't let go of the thing you're holding on so tightly, God can't give you whatever else there was that He wanted to provide for you. And also, it can bankrupt you. I've seen that happen. So it's making sure that you understand that, what your objectives are, what would make this a successful, seems like a weird word to use, but a successful process, at
Mhm.
the end of it, and being able to hold physical items loosely, the wedding china, the whatever, just saying like, God, if I'm supposed to have it, I'd love to have it, but I know if I don't get it, I'm not gonna give him all of the 401k because he's going to give me the china we got in Italy. Like you just
Right.
sometimes sometimes we sit in a room and we're like, this does not make any sense. Buy a new one. So I think
Yeah.
that's it. Like knowing what you want is good, but also holding them loosely is.
I I've actually known people to say, I've already lost so much, I can't lose this. But that is the thing holding you back. That is the thing sucking you dry.
Mhm.
Um, and if we look at that, I've already lost so much, I can't lose this. Then get somebody else's perspective
Mhm.
and and accept someone else's perspective, because if this that you're holding on to with both hands is keeping you from receiving anything else and actually taking what you already have, then it's a it's a detriment, right? It's a plague. It's like hanging on to cancer.
It's
um
bondage in a way, like, you're
right, it's bondage.
yeah, it's holding you back from a freedom that you could have, at the end of the process, and so that's knowing that there can always be another tangible thing, you know?
Yes.
You got God, you got your backpack, and whatever you get is great, but, don't hold on to the small stuff, the
Right.
physical things, like, you have your children, your life, your family, let go of some of it. I'm not saying be in like just give it all away because that's another thing that I see when people are like,
Yeah, don't be
take all the
frivolous, right?
possessions. I just yeah, I don't. But I try to be fair when I work with clients and give them kind of a balanced perspective. I don't think for me either, it's not about, getting everything. It is about getting what's fair though.
Mhm.
And so for me at least, that's kind of the direction I try to coach clients in. Just give them the information about what they have, give them their options, and go from there.
That makes a lot of sense. And everybody's path is different. So it
Hmm.
does help to have a financial advisor who can look at what your goals are, what your resources are, and help you get where you want to go. Kristen, thank you so much for being here today.
You're
I feel
welcome.
freer already just talking to you. So I
Great.
really appreciate that. Back in
Thank
a few
you.
minutes with Deborah Love Bradshaw, and stick around.